Hi, I'm Nicole. Ayers. I am a committee member of Authentic Voices, which is a program sponsored by the Women's National Book Association and Women of Color Writers. And Authentic Voices is really dedicated to leveling the playing field in the publishing industry by inviting women of color to the table in an educational and immersive setting where they can learn the ins and outs of what it takes to get published in today's world. So I am so excited to introduce all of you to Yemima Davis. She is one of the fellows in this inaugural year of Authentic Voices. So I'm going to tell you a little bit about her. Yemima is a gifted storyteller and playwright whose stories promote awareness for lesser known historical events and people. She writes fiction and nonfiction that educate, entertain, and inspire. Yemima has been chosen by her ancestors to tell their stories in truth and wholeness, and she's carrying on the legacy of Jeli Musa or African griot. So Yemima, welcome and thank you for joining me today.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad to be here. Really excited about it.
Well, I am so excited to hear about the story that you've chosen to write in the Authentic Voices program, knowing that you are a storyteller. So will you tell us a little bit about your story?
My story is called Far Above Rubies, and it is a story about the survivors of domestic violence. Unfortunately, growing up, I learned about domestic violence at a very early age. I had an aunt that was murdered at the age of 22 from domestic violence. And unfortunately, during high school, I had friends who were caught up in domestic violence. I lost friends in high school to domestic violence. And so I wanted to write something about the survivors in domestic violence. And then also those that didn't survive, I wanted to honor them as well. And then also inspire those that were caught up in domestic violence, let them know that you can survive this. You can get out of it. There is a way to get out.
Oh, wow. Just, as you're talking, I'm just feeling like the power in what you're talking about, just not only just in giving people some hope and then also honoring those you've lost. I think that's just a really beautiful tribute. And it's such an important topic that we don't ever talk about.
Absolutely.
Is that part of what inspired you, is just really pushing that envelope to get people talking about domestic violence and maybe getting involved?
Yes, absolutely. In the Black neighborhood, in the Black culture, um, whatever happens in that culture, in the neighborhood, in your house stays there. And that can be problematic because you tend to think that whatever goes on in your house is normal. And sometimes it's not. And if you don't talk about it, then you don't realize that you are being that you are in a violent situation, that you are not being treated the way that you should be treated. And so this was a way for me to have people open up those conversations to say, you know what, this happened in my house. I didn't think anybody else went through this. So get people to understand, and then look for places to get help. So yeah, again, just finding a way to get out of a situation that is really toxic.
Yeah. That is so, it's so important that we have stories, right? Because it is like eye-opening. And if, especially like you said, in the Black community, if you're not always sharing like personal stories, but to read a story and go, oh, wait, that actually is happening to someone else and it's not okay that it's happening.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
could literally save someone's life.
Exactly.
It's so powerful. Wow. Awesome. Well, thank you for having the courage to tell the story and to extend that hand of like hope, like that there's help out there, and hopefully inspire people to get it.
I hope so. I definitely hope so.
Yeah. And tell me the name again.
It's called Far Above Rubies.
Far
And
above.
that's taken from a biblical passage, Proverbs 31. The whole passage from verse 1 through 31 is a story of a mother to her son. And she's telling her son what to look for in a woman and how to find a good wife and the attributes of a good woman and a good wife. And so the women who are kind of, get caught up or unfortunately get caught up in like abusive situations, they don't know that they're worth. They don't know that they are far above rubies is what their worth is. And so I took that passage and I attribute it to so many women in my life, my mother, my sisters, that and they knew their worth, that they weren't caught up in that situation. But I just want women to know that your worth is far above rubies, and that you're worthy of love, and you're worthy of safety, and you're worthy of protection.
Yes, 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 yes.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yes. Oh, I cannot wait to read this story, and just hearing you talk about your whys for writing it and describing that title. I'm excited to read it, and I think that it's going to be such a great addition to the anthology, and really to, like you said, just to open people's eyes to what's going on sometimes behind those closed doors. So wow, thank you for writing this.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, let's move into a little bit. Tell me about what this program, Authentic Voices, has been like for you. I'd love to know kind of about your overall experience with it, and maybe what drew you to apply in the first place.
It's been amazing. It's brought out some things in me that I didn't think about myself. As my bio said, I've written plays. I've written one-woman shows. I've performed, and most of my pieces that I write are presentational. That means that when I put it on paper, it will eventually make it to the stage. So I didn't think of myself as a book author or someone to just write something for someone to read, but for them to actually see it performed. So being a part of Authentic Voices, it's allowed me to know that, you know what, I can write some things for people to just read and still be inspired and still be entertained and still be educated without it being presented on stage. So this program has really, really brought that out of me. And I look at myself now as an author and soon to be a published author.
Yeah. Oh, I love that it's given you like another piece of yourself that you maybe hadn't claimed yet. That's awesome.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, very
Absolutely.
exciting.
Yes, yes.
Well, and so what has it been like to be with the other fellows in your cohort group and working with the instructors? Because I know part of the mission has been to make sure that like your instructors are women of color and that the mentors are women of color. So it's really hopefully giving you a place to explore in ways that you haven't before.
It has, and the group has been wonderful. My co-fellow authors and the mentors and the teachers have all been wonderful. And I've learned so much that even though we are considered BIPOC or women of color, we still have things to learn about each other, because each woman brought a different culture and a different ethnicity and a different flavor to the group. And it was so amazing to listen to their stories of growing up and what they write about. And everybody was writing from history to science fiction to medicine. And it was just a big jambalaya of things, all put in one big pot of stew. Yeah. But it was so delicious.
I love that. You have a way with words. You truly do. That's such a beautiful description of it. I hope that they make that a tagline for next year's application process. That's fantastic. But it is, I mean, it's so enriching to learn about other women and other cultures and how are we different and how are we the same, and
right.
And letting it all, like you said, just turn into something really delicious together. I love that. Well, we'll close on, has there been, and I know you already shared, I think probably what was most impactful in that you really started to see yourself as a book author as well as a playwright, storyteller. But was there like a special moment that you've really loved or a connection you've made that you'd like to share?
Natalie was teaching, I think, the first two classes, and she started talking about her writing. And she coined the phrase of creative nonfiction. And I thought, oh my God, that's what I write. Because I write historical stories, and they're about my ancestors, known and unknown bloodline, my African and African American ancestors. And because our stories were never written down, they were passed on orally, I don't know the exact 100% of the stories.
Sure.
And so I have to read their stories and then create things surrounding their stories, create stories within their stories. Even though it's nonfiction, some parts of it may not be 100% true. So when she said creative nonfiction, it's like, oh my God, I have a genre.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And that, from that moment on, the light bulb went on my head, and stories just started popping up in my head, and books, that I want to write. I'm like, this is amazing. This is absolutely wonderful.
Oh, that is amazing. I can't wait to read Far Above Rubies, and just to follow along, because I can tell that a fire has been lit within you to
Yes.
to write more and publish more. And so I am going to be following and cheering you along all the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate that. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much for the interview and for being a part of the program. You truly have been a gift to it.
Oh, well, thank you. The program has been a gift to me as well. I appreciate Authentic Voices. I really, really do. Thank y'all for coming up with this program. And I hope you guys have many, many, many more years of this program and many, many more authors to come on board.
Oh, me too. Me too. Take good care.
Thanks, you too. Have a good evening.